Hi guys, my name is Annabelle from Horizon Cosplay and I have a problem. I have way too much fabric. So I decided to organise a stash swap with some of my other YouTube Costube friends. Essentially what we're doing is we're all taking some stuff out of our stash and sending it to other people so that it's not our problem anymore, it's theirs. And also means that hopefully stuff that I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with, I just brought it because it was pretty, actually does get used. So the plan for today is to go into my storage space in my mother-in-law's house and rummage around some of the fabric that I've got stored in her attic just to get rid of a few bits and pieces, because it's not like my fabric stash is taking up half the damn attic, I promise. This package is then going to be boxed up and sent to the next person. Now I am sending my package to Gwen's Shenanigans. The link to her YouTube channel is in the description down below, and I am receiving a package from Retro Claude, which I'm very, very excited about. Anyway, first things first though, I need to box up some stuff for Gwen. So let's go to the store space and see what I can find. Up the stairs we go. And let's open the door. Please don't judge the mess in here, guys. Ignore, ignore. Sewing machine, rolls of fabric. Let's see what we've got. Okay, so I've got this box, which is what I'm going to be posting it in. It does have a lid, and I've got some scissors to cut stuff off the rolls. Do you have some like random fabric as well in some of those boxes over there? But we'll see what we can find because I genuinely can't remember what's in half of them. And so we went rummaging in the attic, where a lot of my currently not used fabric is kept, and of course I did find some treasures amongst all that mess. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of room to cut up what I found, so some of the lines ended up being a little bit dodgy to say the least, but once I was happy with my selection, it was time to pack it all up. I don't even know what happened, but that was such a fail of cutting that off the roll. Like, look at that janky ass edge. So all this fabric, if you've been around this channel long enough, you might remember I brought an entire van worth of cosplay supplies. All of this came from that haul, so an old lady who was retiring and just wanted to sell her entire stash. Now, this stuff here, it's synthetic, but it's like a nice synthetic. It's a lovely lilac colour and just really flowy and gorgeous. I really do quite like it, but I have no idea what I'm ever going to use it for. So that's going to get folded up and go in the box. The other thing that I've considered a lot here is that I've chosen quite lightweight fabrics for the simple case that I do have to post this internationally, and I don't want the postage to like bankrupt me, essentially, unfortunately. The next fabric we have is this lovely blue, no idea what it is, but it's pretty damn cute, and it is quite see-through, but it's also quite nice. It's lovely kind of dark duck egg blue colour, has a lovely swing to it. I think there's about 2 meters there, so hopefully she can do something with it. We then have this gorgeous peachy pink. It's actually kind of flesh colored, and when I was cutting up the roll, it definitely did do some janky edges on there. Oops-a-daisy, but I'm sure it won't matter too much. And this fabric, I've actually got this fabric in several colors, and I've ended up using most of it because it is just so damn nice. The flow is amazing. It doesn't really stretch, so it keeps its shape really nicely, but essentially it just moves so nice and it feels so nice, and it's really lightweight. So I'm very happy about that one, and hopefully she will enjoy it. Then there is this fabric here. I've actually got a few more strips of this at home. I cut them out for a project, and then the strips I'd cut out were too short, so they got set aside. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with them, so hopefully she can find it. So they're quite wide strips of a gorgeous shimmery pink. I always thought this would make a nice Aurora dress, and I do have a little bit left over, but we'll see what these are. This is just one strip. I think I've got another 2 more at home, and then the last fabric that I'm going to put in there is some leftovers from when I made my vintage skirt from a panel. I had a panel that essentially made a summer dress. I hated the summer dress, and so we used the skirt pieces to make a skirt, and I still have the top and the waistband left over. So we're going to use that, and we're going to send it to her, and maybe she'd like to make a top or a dress out of it. We'll see. But for now, guys, I think the only thing left to do is package this all up and send it to the post office. To be honest with you guys, I'm not normally the neatest packer, and getting everything folded and in this box was not the... well, it was a little bit of a struggle to say the least. However, we did manage to fit it all in there, and at that point I remembered that it wasn't just fabric I intended on sending. Right, so the fabric is now all packed, but I just realised there was a few other things I wanted to put in there, and basically I've just got these scraps of lace which are too small for anything that I really want to do, but I do know that she really likes cottagecore dresses, and I'm hoping that she can use these as little embellishments for bits and pieces. So we have this one right here, which is super, super cute. Then we've got this one, which is a bit thicker, but still really cute. There's actually about 1.5 meters of this, so quite a bit. Hopefully it will be able to do something nice with that. This one is my favorite one, but there's really only a tiny amount, but it'd be perfect for like a collar or some wrist cuffs or just, I don't know, decorative bodice or something. I'm trying to give you ideas here, Gwen. I'm not really sure what you're going to do. I'm also going to include this lovely golden maroon ribbon just because, again, it is utterly adorable. And we have these fabric roses, which I've got to be honest, I'm pretty sure they're handmade from the lady that I brought this stuff off of, because you can see all the hand stitching on the back. But I genuinely just don't think I'm ever going to use them if I'm not a particularly flowery person, so hopefully Gwen does some other stuff with that. And then the last thing I'm going to include, because I do like including like little bits of vintage stuff or whatever, is this. And this is a vintage needle case made in a little hat. It's been hand crocheted and I'm pretty sure it's handmade. It does unfortunately have a bit of a stain on. I have put it through the wash once, but I think it probably could do with a delicate wash again. See if that'll fix it at all. But it's super, super adorable, and to be honest, I just have several needle books and I don't need this one, so I thought she might appreciate it.
The next day.
Okay, so this morning something really special arrived, which is this parcel, and yes, it is open. You want to know why it's open? I should have taken a picture because it was just hilarious. They delivered it in a water-filled carrier bag. So I say it's arrived this morning, and it's actually been drying on my radiator for like 3 days at this point because it was so wet, it was actually disgusting. But luckily fabric does dry out rather nicely, and Claude did tell me that what she was sending was cotton, so though they definitely need to go through the wash, let's have a look at the fabric. Ooh, it's really soft, even though like we've dried this on a radiator and it's been dried folded. It's actually not too bad. It is some lovely black cotton with like fern leaves on. Actually smells alright, which I'm glad. The rainwater sometimes can be a bit dodgy. It's nice and thin, so I think it'll be great for a summer dress. And fern leaves for me, like, I don't know, me and Ben spent quite a long time when we first met living in New Zealand, and kind of reminds me of home, but not necessarily in a good way because we're no longer there, and I kind of wish we were. But it's lovely. I really, really like it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that one. The other one though. Now this is a slightly thicker fabric. It is striped blue and yellow, which two of my favorite colors, and I have the perfect dress pattern that I know I want to make with this, and I'm pretty sure looking at how much there is there that I should have enough fabric. So give me a second, I am going to see if I can quickly find it. So this is a Vogue pattern. It's actually factory folded, and I had this pattern up for sale on my Etsy shop for like ages and nobody brought it, and it was one that I was always a bit 50-50 as to whether or not I actually wanted to sell, because it is so perfectly my style. Like, this dress here is like exactly what I wear 99% of the time, and this fabric is just perfect. I just have to make this dress out of that fabric. So I think that's what we're going to do. What size is this? It does say it's size 12. Bust is 34 centimeters, which I think is about what mine is. But either way, let's pop this away. And I suppose we're going to have to do a mock-up to see whether or not I actually have enough fabric and if this actually fits and what adjustments we need to make. And I love vintage patterns, but sometimes it's just so much easier to draft your own. But I want to use a vintage pattern for this because Claude, retro Claude, kind of feel like I need to use a vintage pattern. You know, it's fine. My brain's just fuzzing at the moment. So the point is, let's get sewing. 1 minute. I think we forgot or didn't notice that there were buttons. Yes, we have a little packet, and all they're wrapped in plastic. So I'm guessing that means that they probably. Oh my gosh, those are gorgeous buttons, and they go perfectly with stripy fabric. So yeah, no, we definitely like that one. And the buckle also goes perfectly with the stripy fabric. Oh my gosh, Claude, thank you so much. I know exactly what I'm making with these, and I am very, very excited to make this happen. So yep, let's get sewing, let's go.
And then, I won't lie, this project did kind of get shelved for about a month or possibly 2, simply because life happened, and honestly it has just been mad. Then again, I feel like I'm always saying that my life gets mad, but then again it always seems to, so yeah, one of those things. The first thing on the to-do list was to make a mock-up of the dress, and for that I had to use my vintage Vogue pattern. To make the mock-up, I used an old curtain lining, the blackout kind that goes all sticky and horrible if it goes through the washing machine, and boy oh boy, this pattern had way more pieces than I was expecting. And then I thought about the fact that it was a Vogue pattern for a moment and decided that I wasn't actually that surprised about this.
You being a good kitten, Sherlock. You helping me with my project?
When it came to the skirt, I made the hard decision to cut off the longer skirt sections for the other dress. I made sure to label each piece and set them aside to iron and put away as soon as everything was cut and done, but though it pained me, it did make my life so much easier, so I don't really regret it. And of course, then came out the scissors. And there really is just way too many pieces to this pattern, so it better be damn worth it when the dress is done. Also, a side note, this pattern is a little damaged and I cannot for the life of me find my repair tape anywhere to fix it up, so I'm hoping that at some point I'll come across it before I have to pack the pattern away, but if I don't, I'm gonna have to make a note on it somewhere that it does need repairing.
Okay, so I have just batch pinned everything that I can initially pin in my mock-up, and as I was doing this I was reading the instructions, and I think it's a really good thing I decided to do a mock-up because oh my god, there is some very complicated pleating in this dress. Like, I don't know why I thought a Vogue pattern would be easy to sew, because I've heard that they are notoriously hard, but so good thing we're doing a mock-up. I might try and get a little bit of stitching done tonight, but it is quite late and I have to be up at 5 AM tomorrow. So we'll see how we go with that. But so far so good, and fingers crossed the mock-up comes out fine and it all fits and I don't have to make any adjustments.
Before I lost my motivation, I got stitching, and at this point it was like 11 o'clock at night, but I just couldn't help myself. The creative juices were just flowing wildly and I wanted to make the most of it. So I kept on sewing, and more sewing, going on way past when I should have gone to bed, but the more I sewed the better it looked and the more I wanted to get it done so that I could finally try it on, because somehow I think this pattern may actually be the perfect size for me and I found that more exciting than anything else.
Okay, it is 1:30 in the morning. I am gonna have a line until 5:30 so I don't have to get up quite so early tomorrow. But if I wasn't getting up tomorrow, I would be able to finish the mock-up tonight. As it stands, everything is pinned except for the collar, which is fine. The collar needs to go on after I've done a little bit more stitching. So hopefully tomorrow I can just smash out the last bits when I get home if I'm still feeling energetic. And we'll see, because that went together surprisingly quickly. I'm feeling 50-50 about whether or not we'll get the dress done this weekend. I'm crossing my fingers, and I hope you're crossing your fingers too, but it seems possible, which is all I'm going to say for the moment. And with that, good night. And good morning. Well, I say good morning, but it is the afternoon, 2 days after I stayed up all night sewing, because yesterday I went out all day with my parents and we didn't get back till 1 in the morning either. So I've had a bit of a line today. Me and my mum and dad also went shopping, and my dad brought me the most incredible pair of shoes. One sec, I just have to show you guys. So it's official, I now feel like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. So if you would like to see me make a proper Dorothy cosplay, just snap your heels and click that like button and I will make a beautiful dress to go with these, because oh my god, how cool are they? I have sparkly red shoes. It's amazing! Back onto serious sewing talk though, we have the mock-up to finish. If I can get the mock-up done, make sure everything fits, and then get the real fabric cut out today, I will call that a success, because I am 99% sure that I will indeed be able to make this dress in a day, or at least most of it in a day tomorrow. So fingers crossed, give me some hope, send me some prayers, and let's go!
So I got going, and pretty quick those last few things were sewn on, and with that done, the remaining things could just be pinned together before I could finally try this beauty on.
So this is the pattern, and this is the mock-up, and I think it worked out well. However, couple things to know. I have had to add an extra pleat just directly into the back just because my bum's a little bit bigger than the pattern. However, the rest of it is absolutely perfect. It buttons up really nicely. At the moment, I've just pinned down the facing because I couldn't be bothered to top stitch it all, and I've put pins everywhere, ow, caught my finger, and I put pins everywhere that there's supposed to be a button, including on the cuffs. I love these sleeves. I might add a gusset, but I am a very big fan of gussets. I just find they give you a bit more movement, but we'll see. I can always add that later out of a scrap piece of fabric, possibly. The only thing I haven't done is added in this. Now, this is supposed to go inside the skirt, and essentially, I'm not gonna pull it up because I don't need you guys seeing my knickers. Where all these pleats are, there's loose bits on the inside, and this, I believe, is just supposed to help keep them in place. Now, I am going to try and make one of these out of fabric if we've got enough of it, because I've got to be honest, this took up a lot more than I was expecting, so I think we're going to be okay, but I'm also not 100% sure, so we'll see. Otherwise, I'll just use a plain cotton. And all I'm going to do is, essentially, I'm going to make it as it says, but I'm going to make the back quite a bit bigger, and then I'm going to trim it down so that it fits, because when I put this on to basically just check if this fits, it tore because it didn't like my hips. I think this is a little bit tighter than the skirt is, but overall, I think this looks fantastic. I think it has a really good flow. This fabric is also a hell of a lot heavier than the fabric it suggests making it out of and the fabric we're going to make it out of. So I think the thing is now to get redressed and then fold out, no, not fold, iron the fabric. And from there we can start pinning and stitching, and I love it. I think it looks great. It's a bit more snug on the hips than I was expecting, but also it looks so good that I'm not going to complain. I am definitely going to wear a belt with it. I'm going to see if I've got enough fabric to make a belt, as Claude did give me a belt buckle as well, but we'll wait, we'll see, and I'm so excited!
I began by ironing the fabric, and honestly this is the first time I've actually unrolled it, but damn, I was so happy. Thank you again so much, Claude. You sent me so much, meaning that even with all the pieces this pattern has, I am super confident that I'm going to have enough. Also, as a side note, I am going to make another dress with the other fabric Claude sent me, but I just can't decide what, so if you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments down below. Once all the pattern pieces were ironed, we got to pinning, and with just a little shuffling around, we got everything to fit, except of course the skirt facing, or whatever the hell that thing's called. With that, we're going to need to piece it slightly, but as we also want to extend it, I don't really mind, especially as we can do it at the edges of the fabric, and also it's an underlayer, which means nobody is ever going to see it. Once everything was cut, I began to mass pin everything I could, drawing on stitch lines for pleats and arranging the skirts until I literally ran out of pins and had to go to my sewing machine. Oh, and I also set aside everything that would need interfacing so that I could do that in one big hit as well. I don't know, it's kind of like being lazy, but it's being lazy in the most effective way possible.
So, it's like midnight again, which is so typical for me, it's not even funny. Like, after tomorrow I'm back at work, so these late nights, they're not doing me much good, but oh well, we carry on anyway. I have pinned all the skirt panels, some of them need a few more pins, but I've run out, so we'll do that later. Everything else that needs stitching is there, sewing machine is on and all threaded up. Cat is helping me and judging me silently, aren't you, Shirley? So now we're just going to have to sew. I'm just going to carry on till I'm tired. I couldn't sleep even if I went to bed right now anyway, so I may as well just work, and we'll see how this comes out. Also, this dress is from the 1970s. I'm not sure I mentioned that yet, but it's a 1970s dress, which probably one of the reasons it is so nice.
With that, I got sewing, mostly putting in the darts and making sure to slow right down, even turning the wheel by hand at one point to make sure that I caught just a few threads with those last few stitches, giving them the perfect fading away look into the smooth fabric. Also, don't worry about any of the pen marks showing. I purposefully used an ink pen that I know easily washes off, so that as soon as I put it through the washing machine for the first time, it's all going to come right off. Also, I totally forgot to film it, but I also trimmed down the skirt facing and pinned in those darts before stitching those on too, before attaching the two panels at the front. And no, I didn't overlock the little bit of raw fabric. Why, you ask? Well, because I'm going to do it later, of course.
Where is my ham? Where is my ham? No, seriously guys, I genuinely think I've lost my ham. I mean, my house is a mess, but this is why I never tidy, because I know where everything is until I put things away and then I lose them, and now I cannot find my sewing ham anywhere, and I need to iron pleats into a bust, which is kind of the purpose of a sewing ham. So, yeah, that's a thing. Correction, darts, not pleats. It is about this point like 2 in the morning, so I think you can forgive me that mistake.
Not going to lie, there was a lot to iron, way more than I anticipated, but who's surprised about that? Not me, that's for sure. Then again, don't I always say that? But as I got ironing, attaching interfacing to everything that needed it, and flattening out darts into the right directions, I had a sudden and horrible realization.
So, somehow, I have managed to pleat 2 pieces the same way for the front of the dress, which is exactly where I didn't want to make a mistake because it's the most obvious bit. So I'm gonna have to unpick something. I've gone through them. I think this is the most untidy one out of the 2, and we're just gonna have to be really careful unpicking it because I don't have enough fabric to recut this. So fingers crossed for me that this goes well, because it's stripy, it's 2 in the morning, and yeah, one of those things really, I think. That's what I didn't want. Everything else is going great though.
So I got unpicking, which thankfully did actually go quite well and was surprisingly easy, before sitting down and sewing together all the things that I'd pinned, as I had at this point run out of sharp stabby things to stick in my unsewn clothes. Also, at some point I had actually got tired and gone to bed, so good morning again. All the stitching went really well, and we even ended up attaching all the pieces to the skirt, which I did slightly differently to how the instructions told me to. However, my way is definitely easier and quicker, so take that, Vogue. Who says you're the fashion experts anyway?
Okay, please excuse the background noise because I'm currently doing my laundry, but this is what the front currently looks like. So I've repinned this star. I've also pinned on the gussets to the side, So as you can see, I've cut them on the diagonal, so when they're up like that, should form a kind of straight line. I think the diagonal was the right thing to do, because it's going to be halfway between the shoulder and the arm, but we'll see if it looks really, really rubbish. I do have the same size square cut in straight, and I have a little bit of scrap that I can make something else out of that. For now though, let's do this, attach the shoulders, attach the gussets, and then think about attaching the arms, because that's progress, guys.
I attached the shoulder pieces and restitched the darts before deciding to leave the gussets just pinned on for the moment. As a side note, I'm using the recommended seam allowance for the top, but a slightly smaller one for the skirt to help compensate for the fact that my butt's a little bit bigger than the pattern recommends. Once that was done, I started overlocking everything I'd sewn so far that needed it. From the skirt to the shoulder seams, it all got done, and damn, this is why the actual dress took way longer to do. It's because when overlocking, you essentially have to stitch everything at least twice. And then it was again time to work out these ever so complicated pleats. For this, I laid out all the pattern pieces and the instructions, and then sat to get everything organised as best I could before starting to stitch these as well. And boy, oh boy, I am so glad that I had a practice run with these pleats, because I got them pinned up in about 10 minutes compared to the almost 2 hours it took me the first time, which, you know, large improvement there. Once it was all sewn, I then overlocked it. I can't help myself, after all, you just have to finish those raw edges, right? Ideally, if I'd had more fabric, I'd have also extended the seam allowance to allow for French seams, but considering that the last piece of the dress had to literally be pieced together, there's no complaints with just having overlocked edges on the inside rather than just covered things, which would have looked neater, but I can live without them.
I found my ham, which is good, so progress there at least. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim down all the bits with the interfacing and just pin them kind of the right way round. I've got the collar, I've got the 2 cuffs, got the button placket, I think it's called, not 100% sure, can't remember, doesn't matter, it's fine. And I've got to pin on the sleeves, so we're going to get on with that. I have just realised that I don't think I have enough buttons for this dress, which I'm a little bit sad about, but I am going to try and use these even if I have to mix in some other ones as well. And I think I'm going to save the belt buckle to make a proper nice belt, because the scrap fabric I have is nice, but it's also not really enough to make a belt in the way that I like, and I quite like my belts to be elasticated so it, you know, sucks in the waist, makes me look nice and skinny.
It feels like ages since I used interfacing, and I'd honestly forgotten how nicely it holds the shape. I made sure to trim the corners before turning things the right way around, giving me those sharp points that we all love and want.
So am I not allowed to work on my dress, Girly Bear? Would I be interrupting your nap time on top of my sewing machine? Yeah, alright, we can wait to work on the dress. Your sleep is more important.
I don't think I've ever been so excited to sew in sleeves. They went in quickly and easy, and were soon also overlocked before we installed the gussets and sewed up the sides of the bodice and undersides of the sleeves. And with that, why not attach the cuffs really quick? Or, you know, just get distracted instead.
Okay, so sleeves are attached. I need to run a gathering stitch around the bottom, but we'll do that in a second. But I just thought I'd take a moment because I need 8 buttons and I've only got 4 of the ones that Claude sent me, so we needed to come up with a solution. I haven't got anything in blue, so I thought I'd go with the yellow because the only cream ones I had were seashell and they were a little bit pink. They didn't really go with the outfit. So having gone through my entire jar of yellowy gold buttons, because I like sorting them by colour, we have 3 options. We have these little ones, which I don't really have enough of. I do have 2 tiny roses that could potentially go with them to go on the cuffs. We have the bronze, which I think are gonna be my favourite option. And then we also have the silver, which again, I don't really have enough of, but if we transferred these over here, yes, they're a different colour, but we could probably get away with it. I think I'm gonna ask Instagram what the option should be, because I honestly can't decide. I'm kind of leaning towards these, just because I've actually got enough of these all in the right colour, but let's see.
While I waited on some feedback on the buttons, I ran a gathering stitch around the sleeves. I then gathered those down into the cuffs and stitched them in. I think I will secure them a little bit more on the inside with a few hand stitches just to help them hold in place, but for the moment they're all okay. The next thing I did was pin around the hem of the skirt. For this I used my thin metal ruler and a pencil to mark out the rolled hem all the way around before pinning it in place and then securing it with a top stitch. The instructions here do say to hand stitch the hem, but honestly I'm just way too lazy for that. Then I pinned the skirt onto the bodice with the skirt lining on as well before sealing up the back of the skirt lining and overlocking it. I then top stitched the skirt, which which came out super neat, though maybe I did put the sewing line a little bit low. Once that was done, I started on the waist seam.
If you're squeamish about small scratches and blood, I might just look away for a moment, but I want to show you guys because I'm chuckling so much that I just scratched my hand on the sewing machine because I was trying to pull some fabric through, and I've got my pins there, which I'm gonna move them over here. Not the smartest idea, and oh my god, just look at this. Okay, so do you guys see this lovely thing that's stuck there? That's the side of my hand. That is my skin. That is disgusting. We are going to clean that out. We're not going to stick it back on because I'm not that gross. Oops-a-daisy. It's alright. Project isn't ever a project unless you get blood on it, right?
If you're squeamish, you can now look back. Carrying on with the waist seam, I tried not to get blood on anything and was quickly done. I then gave it all a quick try on to make sure everything was right before pinning on the front facing and the collar piece, before realising I totally forgot to overlock the waist seam, so I went back and did that real quick before stitching on the facing after all.
Okay, so last you guys, I think, saw I had cut my hand, and it's been about a week and a half since then, and the reason is because my hand actually got really infected and it was really swollen and sore, and I have to type a lot in my job, so I was kind of reserving the fingers for work where I get paid. However, it's now my days off. It was a night shift last night, so I've basically slept all day, which is utterly insane, I know, but it's one of those things, and to be fair, I do like my job, even if it is really weird hours sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I am going to try to go to bed at about midnight tonight, because I have to get up to do things tomorrow. I've got quite a list of various things that I want to get done, both for this and for other sewing projects. I have spent this afternoon kind of organising my fabric stash and putting them into piles of various projects, so I want to try and pattern several projects tomorrow that I can then get cut out and then gradually sew over the next few weeks. But we're not talking about other projects, we're talking about this one. So I think I can get this done tonight. If I can't get it done tonight, I can certainly get most of it done bar the hand stitching tonight. So the plan is the collar bit at the top needs top stitching, this bit needs top stitching and re-ironing, because I've actually managed to pattern match it with only a slight adjustment. Don't think I'm going to have to unpick all the stuff around the neckline, but if I do, I'm happy to, because pattern matching is very cool, apparently. I've now decided it is official, pattern matching is cool. And then it will just be a case of the buttons and attaching the pleats to the skirt lining. So I suppose we should get on with that. And oh, also, this is what my hand looks like now. So the scab's come off, it's officially not infected, was leaking pus for a while, it was super gross, but we're good.
I started by top stitching the collar, which came out super neat. I then moved on to the top stitching around the button facing, or whatever the hell those things are called, because I'm not reading the instructions anymore, as apparently I am better than that, starting with the one that would go on the underside before moving to the front. The collar then got pinned on and stitched, and before I knew it, that was it. All machine work was done. Yes, I am shocked as well. But before I could start hand sewing everything, I first decided to be domestic and tidy away the sewing pattern to use again another day. Ben has already requested I make several more of these dresses in various fabrics that I own, so I think I'm going to be using this again. Before starting the buttonholes, I decided that I didn't really like where the pattern had put them. The collar just didn't seem to fold right with the buttons so high up, so I changed the placement, but it did take a few attempts at spacing them to get them even without one sitting right on my waistline where it would sit under my belt, and I thought it'd be a little bit uncomfortable to wear.
Good morning. So yesterday doing work on the dress did go okay. I managed to finish up everything that needed to be done on the sewing machine, and I also began the hand stitching. I woke up this morning and my main target for today is I've got 5 buttons and buttonholes to attach onto the front bit, and then that's going to be done, and then I also have to attach the pleats of the skirt to like the little lining bit that will just hold them up and in place. And I'm an idiot because I realised this morning when I looked at the buttonholes that I did on the cuffs yesterday that I've actually done them both so they're like the same way around. But the buttonholes are so neat, I'm not going to fix it. Like, these kind of flaws are what makes homemade clothing homemade, and I'm just going to love it how it is and accept the fact that at some point I might need to sew up a buttonhole and, you know, change where the button is. I'm an idiot. I must have just been so tired last night, honestly. But now let's put the buttonholes in the right place today.
Then it was time to hand stitch the buttonholes, and why am I hand stitching them? Well, it's because I hate doing them on the sewing machine and they never seem to come out looking nice. And I can already tell this is going to be a dress that I wear a lot, so I'd rather hand stitch them and then take my chances on the machine, because at least then I know that if anything goes wrong it is purely my fault and not because a machine is angry at me. Also, as a side note, I found that the easiest way by far to cut open the buttonholes was actually to use a seam ripper. It was surprisingly neat and easy to keep in a straight line. Once the buttonholes were done, I gave each of the pleats a few stitches at each corner to hold them up to the underskirt so that they wouldn't hang weirdly. And then it was time for the buttons. I had marked where they needed to go using pins and made sure to use a strong double thread and stitch through each button at least 5 times. I also had one button left over, so I added it to the centre back pleat for decoration, though if I ever lose a button on the front, I can always just pick this one up and use it to replace that one. But before I put the dress on for the first time, I had one more thing to do, and that was to give the collar a nice iron to help it keep its shape. And now for the grand reveal! And this is it. What do you guys think? Make sure you let me know in the comments. Personally, I really like it, and there are only 2 things that I would have changed. Firstly, I would definitely attach the base of the button placket differently, and at some point I may actually pick that apart and redo it, as it does seem to pull on the skirt a little. Secondly, I would put both cuffs on the same way around. To be honest, if I really wanted to, I could probably sew up the buttonhole and then put the button on top of the now sewn up buttonhole and then just make another buttonhole on the other side. But honestly, I have some other projects that I am super excited for right now, so that is not going to happen this second. Oh, and actually thirdly, I would also make my gussets more diamonds rather than squares so that it doesn't take away from the fit on the bodice as much as it does. Having said that, I quite like the looser top as it does make it quite comfy to wear, but a little more shape to it might be nice. Overall though, I am super happy with it. It looks amazing, though I'm not all that keen on wearing it without a belt. But then again, this is me. When do I ever wear anything without a belt? So thank you, Claude, for this amazing fabric. I absolutely love it, and out of the entire yardage you gave me, I literally only have a small bag of tiny scraps left, and those, by the way, are going to be added to my pile of patchwork quilt things, so don't worry, they're not going to be wasted. And if you want to see everyone else's fabric swaps, do remember to check out the playlist at the end of this video. Not everyone has released their videos yet, but there's already several amazing ones ready to go whenever you are.
Well, that's it, guys. This dress is done. Oh my god, my mind is blown. It is utterly amazing. I am actually going to be saving this so I wear a uniform when I work normally, but occasionally we have non-uniform days. This is what I'm wearing my next non-uniform day. It's like being back at school, isn't it? But seriously, it's really comfy to wear. It's absolutely gorgeous. I actually went ice skating in it yesterday, and I have to say 10 out of 10. It was absolutely fine to ice skate in, which, you know, I was doing some spins and some jumps and nothing tore, so presume that means it's flexible. Otherwise, it just looks utterly amazing. I do still have the other fabric Claude sent me as well. I think I have a dress that I want to make out of it, but if you guys have ideas, I haven't actually started anything yet, so please do leave it in the comments down below. And otherwise, I suppose I should let you guys go. This is it for this week, but do come back next Wednesday for more sewing, cosplay, and vintage sewing machine content. I'm here every single week, and if you enjoy watching what I make, you can also support me on my Ko-fi. The link is in the description below. I also like to put up my sewing patterns either for free or a small donation, so if you wanted to check them out, please do. It really helps support the channel, and I'm currently saving up for a really big sewing machine restoration of a hand-carved treadle cabinet, which is absolutely amazing. Otherwise, guys, I will see you next Wednesday. So, have a beautiful day. Bye!